I am Erica with EG Wellness, Body and Mind Transformations, and I wanted to talk to you today about mindful movement, how to adapt to get unstuck. So I hear this a lot of things from clients, prospects about how they don't like exercise, and then lots of excuses for not doing things. Okay, so these are some things that you can think about on how to get out of this all or nothing mentality that most people have that are stuck. Okay, that's a big red flag for it's a common behavior. Okay, so let's go into the justifications. So the justifications for those who dislike exercise are many with people who are. They're saying things like, I don't have the right stuff. My environment is different. So that's like when you're traveling or someone else is using your gym equipment or, it's, whatever. There's so many reasons why your environment can change. Maybe something breaks at your house that you were using. Okay. It's too hot outside. It's too cold outside. It's raining, so I can't go for a walk. Okay. Well, if you don't want to use an umbrella, right? Maybe there's a reason why you don't want to have an umbrella outside, or maybe it's raining too hard. It all depends on the severity of the environment, right? So, but there's those words again. I can't. I can't. So when we say I can't, that doesn't leave us any options. It just closes the door and the brain just goes, okay. There's no thinking outside of the box when you say words like I can't. It just stops your mental processes dead in their tracks. Okay, so how about asking yourself when you get into the situation what you could do instead? Right? Then the eyes, start kind of moving around because you're thinking, you're like, oh, what can I do? The creativity starts to come out. And that's the question I want you to ask yourself. Anytime, even if you're stuck in business, anytime you're stuck, period, what else can I do instead? Okay, instead of saying I can't. Okay, so for the walking example, just because you walk every day at 9 a.m. and now you can't, right, doesn't mean that you can't do something else. We're very habitual, we're habitual creatures, and that's why I'm working on habit change. But we have created one way and we break them one way. Okay, so when you're really regimented in your routine and like, oh, it's like 9:15 and now I can't get my, exercise in, then you just stop. Okay, this happens unfortunately way too often. It's because you have this you're stuck in a behavior that's not serving you anymore. Okay, because you were using the word I can't, whether you're saying it out loud or whether you're saying it on a subconscious level. Okay, so maybe the kids got, woke up late, or, you woke up with a headache and then it went away, or, you stubbed your toe and then it put you in a bad mood. And there's all sorts of reasons why you say you can't exercise. Just take a step back for a minute and ask yourself, what else can I do instead? So maybe you hurt your hip the night before, then work on core and upper body exercises, right? Do seated exercises so you don't have to have weight bearing on that ankle or whatever is hurting, right? There's always exercises you can do around something unless you're basically in a hospital bedridden. There's always something you can do. Okay, I've been working with people in rehab and then people from 18 up to like in 90. There's always exercises you can do. So there's never an excuse. Okay, so I want you to think about the compromise, right? So in that scenario where your kids, got up late or they didn't eat their breakfast and whatever the scenario is for you, or you got up late because your alarm didn't go off on time, but you only have 45 minutes now, or maybe you only have 30. So instead of saying screw it, what can I do instead? Okay. 30 minutes is way better than zero, right? And that's what I want you to get at. Okay. 30 minutes is way better than zero. 10 minutes is better than zero because we're looking for consistency. Consistency, repeated behaviors and actions are a habit, and that's what we're looking to maintain, right? Otherwise, you reinforce the I don't give a shit attitude where you're like, tomorrow, I'll do it later. That's not serving you, and that's the habit that you're in. So, in order to break that habit, we have to start thinking differently, right? Okay, this is why, people are not great at thinking outside the box or adapting to change. We just aren't. I was better at it when I was younger. I really enjoyed change to most extent, obviously, except for the really crappy change. There is good change and bad change, right? But as we get older, it definitely is a little bit harder to think outside the box. And the more sedentary you are, the harder it is because your brain's just not used to thinking like that, right? So if you are not willing to look outside of the box for solutions and then continue making those excuses, you will stay stuck. Okay. So sometimes, you're just around the wrong people who don't support you, or they trigger you using their condescending verbiage, or you may be in a support group that everybody is complaining. Okay. Because that's what a lot of support groups can turn into, is just basically a bitch fest, right? Support groups are great unless you're spending a lot of time in them and all you're doing is complaining and you're looking to feel better by listening to other people complain. Okay. So there is comfort in misery, right? So that's the thing. Support groups are not always a good thing, depending on how you utilize them and depending on who is in the group and how much complaining there is versus problem solving and solutions, right? Some people love to sit in misery. It might be you. Maybe you're not ready to admit it. I know some people like this. It's because it makes them feel better. Okay? We always do something for a reason. And they're doing it because it makes them feel better. They're getting something out of that interaction. So when someone's mad all the time, you get a supercharged adrenaline rush. That's a benefit, right? There's consequences to being a jerk all the time, but you still get an adrenaline rush. Same thing with, complaining in a group. It's a sense of community, right? You're looking for connection potentially. You're looking for love potentially, but you're getting it in a misguided way. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to make clear for you. So sometimes it just keeps you stuck, and that's why I want to make sure people who are in support groups that you're really not getting drugged down by that. Okay, because some people just love to complain because it gives them something that they're missing in their life, which is, like I said, connection, acceptance, love. Okay, so if you happen to be in a support group for, let's say, I'm just going to now shoot a number out there, for like 3 months, and you haven't made any changes, or you find yourself spending like 15 minutes or so or more every day commenting on people's posts relating to, like, and consoling them, this could be a red flag to look at. Okay. So especially if you are like the person who is saying, uh, there's not enough time, right? We all say it. I'm not pointing any fingers here, right? We all say we don't have enough time, but it usually comes down to priorities and organizing your life a little bit differently. And I'm saying better, I'm just saying differently, okay? So it's hard for us to see outside of our own box, right? So if you're spending more than 15 minutes a day, let's just say, in a group, and you're complaining all the time, you're not getting the value, you're not actually making any changes, any movement forward, there is time then to focus on other things, okay? You can 100% spend 10 minutes exercising and then 5 minutes on stress relief, right? Stress relief activity. These two things alone, 10 minutes of exercise, 5 minutes of stress relief every day versus being on Facebook and complaining about what's happening to you, is huge, okay? This is how shifts happen, okay? Shifts don't happen by going on Facebook and complaining all day long. So I want you to really, sit back and think, what are you using your time for? Are you using excuses of 60 minutes? I can't do 60 minutes now. I don't have enough time to do anything. It doesn't need to be a lot to make a change. Promise you. It does not need to make a lot of change, but it has to be consistent. Okay, that's how we make habits. We can never just do one thing once and then expect it to stick. That's just not how human behavior works. It's not life, right? So if you haven't made those changes, I want you to think about why. So 2 things you can always do that are free to get your mind out of the I can'ts the I should haves, I have always, I am statements, and into the more positive mental processes, which open up the, the cognitive brain, right? So the higher thinking brain. It's called reframing, okay? So you just change the way you think about things, because it's subconsciously, you're not usually aware of these things. This is what me as a coach is getting out of you, is finding the verbiage that you're using that is on a subconscious level and help move that so it benefits you. Okay. There are some things that you're probably aware of that might be happening, rolling around in your head. So that's what I want you to start with today, right? Look at those things that you're doing and really see if you really don't have 10 minutes to exercise and 5 minutes for stress relief, or if you're hanging around in a Facebook group and just complaining all day long. Okay, so these are things I just want to make sure that you're aware of. So let's go back to the walking or exercise that everyone keeps avoiding. Okay, we've all done it. I've done it. We've all done it. Okay, again, there's no finger pointing here. We're human beings. We all have excuses. Okay, but first ask yourself, do you actually like it, or is it a chore? Okay, and then what could you do instead, and screw the I have to do 3 sets of 15 reps to make it worth my time. It's another box we get stuck in, right? Because I come from a personal training background. I'm a personal trainer, and I add that into what I do now. Um, People are stuck in the box. They're paralyzed by not, oh, is this the right number of reps? Is this the right number of sets? Is this the right weight? Is this the right that? And it too much just doesn't allow the brain to actually come up with a solution, right? So just do something is better than doing nothing. So what if there's a different piece of exercise of equipment that you could use that someone happens to be using if you're back in the gym that would promote a different outcome? There are plenty of different ways to work your rhomboid. So rows, there's plenty of different ways to work your lats. There's plenty of different ways to do pull downs are a little bit harder, but there are different ways to do it, right? Depends if they have resistance bands and things like that. Those are lats, but there's just a bajillion different exercises you can do for all your body parts, and you don't need that piece of equipment. Okay, I'm just thinking outside the box. I obviously know a lot more just because I've been in a gym setting. I've taught group fitness classes and personal training for I think it's 11 years now. So my brain is just tuned to that. But I just, I ask you to think outside the box, right? If that situation comes to you. Okay, so, and then reiterate, right? Is 10 minutes of exercise better than 0? Even though you'd scheduled 60? Totally. Even if it's a DVD that you pop in, who cares? Start from the beginning and just stop it at 30 minutes. You don't have to finish it all the way through, or you can fast forward in the middle, right? Find your favorite bits. Can't walk outside? What can you do instead? People are just too quick to say, I can't, and then just do nothing, and then they stay stuck. Mindful movement, okay, we're coming back to mindful movement. So mindful movement is just moving in a way that you enjoy every day. And that is the biggest thing to start the habit. If you do not like what you're doing, it's not going to stick. Okay, I want you to listen to your body, do what you enjoy, move it however you want. I was doing some traditional exercises upstairs because I really do enjoy strength training. And then I got a little bored. I'm like, I don't really want to do these bicep curls anymore. I'm like, ugh. I started listening to the music. I started tuning into my environment, and then I started dancing. I started dancing with the piece of equipment that I had, and it felt great. Okay, my heart rate went up really high, and I just absolutely enjoyed it. So that's thinking outside the box. Okay, so let's see. So I guess the moral of the story is I want you just to make sure that you are listening to your body. We're just talking about movement today, right? We're talking about movement in terms of, if you don't like what you're doing, find something else to do. Work it in, starting with 10 minutes at a time, and build from there. Makes a big difference, okay? Even if it's just walking up and down the stairs. We don't have as many stairs as my peeps back in the Midwest because Texas doesn't have a lot of well, I shouldn't say Texas, but I don't know about the rest of the state. But Austin doesn't have a lot of two-story buildings, depending on what part of town you're in. So there's a lot of one-level story and not a lot of stairs here. So, and you definitely don't want to do stairs in July and August because you would melt into a puddle of goo. It gets so hot here, it's totally insane. For those of you who don't know what Austin, Texas weather is like in the summer, it is about 100 degrees on average on July and August, and that is in Fahrenheit for those of you who are listening in the Celsius world. It's quite brutal, but it sure beats 6 months of Wisconsin winter, and I will take it. Matter of perspective, right? So if you are sick and tired of being stuck in your box, stuck in the indecision, right? The paralyzing indecision, trapped in your own BS story, you want structure and strategies to overcome overeating, right? That's what I focus on. Overeating, movement, emotional eating, all that stuff. Getting down to the root of it. Comment below if you want to chat, or if you want my free food freedom guidebook, which tells you lots of stuff that can get you started and get you thinking in the right direction. Just comment below. The link is over in the description tab. And go ahead and do hashtag replay and tell me where you're from and if you have any questions, and I will